This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's hour number 2 of Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. No better way to be able to lead off hour number 2 than by being joined by this man on the Progressive Guest Line. As we've got John Von Tobel aboard, he does such an excellent job here at the network. You're able to catch him on now Money Moves with Stormy Bonantoni 5 nights a week. He does a tremendous job being our main man on the NBA front as well. And John, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's going on is that we've got ourselves a lot of high-quality playoff action. Just wrapped up a few minutes ago with the Timberwolves being able to get the win over the Warriors. Now, that late Jonathan Kuminga 3 was very significant if you had the spread, but what did you see in that Timberwolves versus Warriors game? Because right now for Golden State, obviously, trying to persevere without Steph Curry in the fold, but right now 0-2 without him.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing what we kind of expected without Curry out there. Their offense stinks when he's not on the floor. Offensive rating again tonight, a 104.3. It's in the 21st percentile of offensive ratings. It's not a very good individual game offensive rating. You know, you looked at the numbers for this team, Greg, heading into this series. Without Steph Curry on the floor, they were averaging under a point per possession. That has pretty much been the case in the minutes without Curry in this series so far. It's been an absolute nightmare for them. But to give them some credit, they are playing defense at an elite level. They held Minnesota to 102 total points. 108.5 was the offensive rating for the Timberwolves. Really, the big difference for Minnesota in this series, and in this game tonight, was two things. It was their offensive rebounding. They grabbed 40% of their missed shot attempts. It's a very big offensive rebounding rate. And they ended up shooting 38% from three. So, those are things that are really going to help you out. But Golden State has done a great job keeping themselves in this series for the most part because of the way they've been playing on defense. But their offense has been abysmal without Curry.
Yep, and how much do you think that was a little bit different in Game 3 rather than Game 2? Because I just go back to Game 2 for the Golden State Warriors. I think that they played 11 different guys in the first half of that game, and it felt like they, at the very least, had a little bit more of a set rotation here in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You saw them rely a little bit more on Jonathan Kuminga, for example, and he's starting to kind of carve out a niche here. Obviously, it doesn't help where Draymond, by basketball standards, fouls out relatively early, right, in this game. It was still pretty tight when he fouls out with about 4.5, 5 minutes left to go in that contest. But like you said, shortened up quite a bit. Essentially, only 8 guys played in this game. Yes, Quentin Post and Moses Moody got in the game, but they only played 3 minutes. They really kind of understood who they wanted to go to. And it was a tight game, I think, for that very reason. It's also because they relied really heavily on the guys they played. Butler had 43. Podziemski had essentially 40 minutes played. Kuminga, as I mentioned, with those 30 points, win 36 minutes. So he's starting to carve out a niche. So I think they're kind of settling in on the guys that they're going to use. The problem is I think every single one of them is very, very limited, especially when you're talking about a spacing and shooting standpoint.
Yep, absolutely, and I think that it's going to be so much fun to see what we get in game number 4 as the Warriors try to lock things down a little bit more and try to seal one game without Steph Curry. And then what we also saw on Saturday was the Boston Celtics return to form after they were as cold as ice in the first 2 games in their series against the New York Knicks. They take it to them, win this game by double figures, leave no doubt, and take me through just how you evaluate the series between the Celtics and the New York Knicks, because I just take a look at that series, and even though the Celtics were down 0-2 going into this one, I think that you would agree with me. It felt like the Celtics were by far the better team, and they just slipped up late in games, and now they've been able to find their footing, and they were able to knock down those shots that weren't going in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I said it on Money Moves the other day, and this is what Friday before this game we just watched today. I was adamant this series is going to go back to Boston tied up at 2-2, and I even threw in the caveat of I think Boston's going to win both of these games by an average of 17 points. I think they're going to be able to smoke them here, and I think we saw a little bit of that. The key statistic that I kept harping on after the first 2 games of the series, Greg, was, you mentioned whatever it was, 25-100 when we were just talking right now off of the air that they were shooting from beyond the arc. Greg, they were shooting under 30% on wide open 3-point attempts, and they had generated 49 uncontested 3-point attempts in the first 2 games of this series. So, the process was fine. Everybody's freaking out about this team and the way they blew these 20-point leads. They were missing wide open attempts. The process was fine, and I think that's going to continue to be a good process, and they're going to continue to be able to hit these threes at a much higher clip than we saw for the first 2 games. And I think the result in this game coming up on, I think it's Monday, and then the rest of the series moving forward, I think is going to look much more like we saw today, and by extension, what we saw throughout the regular season, which was three really hard rear end kickings for the New York Knicks at the hand of the Boston Celtics.
Yep, and it's going to be very intriguing to see what we get in that game on Monday as well, with the Knicks still up 2-1 in the series, but the Celtics are a 6.5 point favorite, and I know you just said it, you were predicting that they would win by an average of 17 points in both of those games. Would you be willing to go back in on it on the Monday game number 4 with the Celtics being a 6.5 point favorite?
Yeah, we should also know, too, that, look, this is a historic road team, or at least this iteration of the Celtics are a historic road playoff team. They have been a tremendous team away from home for whatever reason it has been in the postseason, and they're going to continue, I think, to do that here, as we saw, whether it just, like, focuses them up or, gets them out of the comfort zone so they are forced to kind of rally together, whatever it is. This team, for the last 3 years now, has been historically great on the road. We have not seen a team like them, and I think that's going to continue.
Absolutely. As John Von Tobel does great work here at the network, is joining me on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And then what I think is going to be interesting on Sunday is the early game between the Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets right now are 6.5 point home underdogs, even though they are currently leading the series by a count of 2-1. I thought that it was a very interesting wrap-up in terms of what we saw in game number 3 with the Nuggets being able to get the job done. They were able to get it done late in that one. But how do you take a look at the series as a whole and this game number 4 with the Thunder, in my opinion, really needing this game number 4 in order to be able to, for lack of a better term, hold serve and be able to get home court advantage back?
Yeah, so I think what's kind of interesting here is for a second straight series, because if you remember when they got eliminated last year by the Dallas Mavericks, the Thunder couldn't hit water falling out of a boat. Their shooting just completely disappeared. And here we are again, at least through 3 games, we've had some disjointed efforts from beyond the arc for OKC. Their offensive rating of 99 against a team that was very poor defensively in the regular season is very concerning. They go 9 of 34 from beyond the arc. Again, very concerning. This shouldn't be happening, especially with the shooting disappearing the way it is for a second consecutive series of theirs. That is a little bit of a problem. Now, you get a little bit better variance here, especially from beyond the arc, and you should be able to bounce back nicely and make this look more like it did in Game 2, where you were just absolutely wiping the floor with the Denver Nuggets. Should also note that for a majority of the 3 games that we have seen here in this series, the Thunder have been the better team, but they are trailing 2-1. At some point, they've kind of got to get their collective heads out of their rear ends and focus up and put together, I think, a very good effort. But they've done a pretty decent job for the most part throughout the season, throughout the series, especially defensively. I would expect they bounce back pretty nicely here. But the shooting, the lack of offense, that is concerning for a Thunder team that did completely disappear on offense against the Dallas Mavericks last year.
And I still think that this is just a relatively insane stat. With the OKC Thunder currently down 2-1 in the series, the team that's down 2-0 actually has a plus-minus point differential of plus 32 in the series right now. That goes to show how big of a blowout game number 2 was, and I don't think we're going to see another 40-plus point blowout here for the rest of the series, but just go to show that when the OKC Thunder are on, to your point, they certainly have been on. And then with regards to the Cleveland versus Indiana series, we're going to be seeing that be the late game on Sunday with the Indiana Pacers currently 5-point home underdogs. How do you evaluate this with right now the Pacers up by a count of 2-1 themselves? And much like we saw in the other Eastern Conference series where the Celtics, they lost both games at home, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they did the same thing, but they were able to bounce back on Friday and get a big win that they so desperately needed.
Yeah, look, I think that Cleveland is really in this position because of the way the injuries have ravaged their roster, and now that they're healthy, we're going to start to see this. Greg, they've dropped over 50 points in the paint in each of the 3 games that they have played against Indiana. Their offensive rating has been consistently great against the Indiana Pacers in the 3 games they have played, despite the fact that the injuries have been there. And now they have their guys back, or one would at least think they have their guys back. Darius Garland only plays 25 minutes, only scores 10 points. That's not really like the best, but at the very least, Donovan Mitchell has somebody else out there where he doesn't have to have a usage rate of 50%, which he had there in Game 2. I think the fact that these guys are back is just a godsend for this team. It means less shot attempts for Ty Jerome, who has been absolutely abysmal. I think he has 2 for his last 20 in this series so far. Only got 10 minutes the other night, which is a very good thing. I just think the fact that there's bodies there is going to be pretty good. And I think Indiana has consistently had some trouble defensively with Cleveland, even with everything they've gone through the 3 games. So I think it's going to be Cleveland or nothing for me in this next game. I think there's a very good shot they win, they cover. Their offense continues to do what it's been doing here in the series. And we go back to Cleveland, and this is a 2-2 and a best 2 out of 3 with 2 of those coming in Cleveland, and it's a brand new series.
And I do want to ask you about this as well, because you mentioned the offense, and it's going to be very interesting to see what we get in game number 4. But right now that total is hovering right around 231.5. Would this be a game where you would be wanting to take a little bit more of an over and looking at a high offensive expose, or do you think that maybe it's starting to get set a little bit too high?
No, I think I would lean a little over, but like you can get probably some better numbers in game, and there's no need to really jump on it pre-flop. But we're starting to kind of see the market. I mean, we're starting to see it creep in that direction at this point right now. Some spots opened at like 226.5 or up to 227. I think that we're probably going to start to continue to head in that direction, but I would lean over. But why not? Just wait to see if this is going to get a little tight and maybe find a better in-game number to go over.
Yep, I was talking about this in the previous hour as well. You can oftentimes find really good in-game numbers late as well with regards to totals. When you just take a look at the situation of the game, like I was taking a look tonight, I was able to find a over of 190.5 with about $1.30 remaining in that Timberwolves versus Warriors game. You knew that the Warriors were going to try to be able to get a few buckets, give you a good effort. That was a nice, easy over there. So I'm right there with you. Not overthink it. Be able to find a little bit of better number in game is the way to go. And the way to go on this show is getting great guest support like you, John. You do such great work at the network, and I always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Appreciate it.
Always great to be able to get John Von Tobel aboard. It's been a really interesting postseason. Just saw it about an hour or so ago. The Timberwolves, they did get the job done 102-97 over the Golden State Warriors, so they do take a nice lead in the series, and we shall see what we're going to be getting in game number 4, as right now that opens up with the Timberwolves being a 5 to 5.5 point favorite. So we're going to be gauging that, but we're also going to be gauging some baseballs. We do have ourselves a great Sunday slate, and we're going to start breaking that down right here on Cashing Out next, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. It was great to be joined by John Von Tobel. He does such a great job taking a look at all things basketball here at the network. He is one of our main guys, and he's been doing a great job with Storm Ubon and Tony on money moves the last few weeks as well. So always appreciate him being able to hop on, and going to be very intriguing to see what we get for the rest of the postseason as well. So it was great to be able to get him aboard, and now we have to go from the hardwood on out to the diamond, as we do have ourselves a really good slate of action that we're going to be seeing on Sunday. I do like a lot of these games, and how about if we do dive in and we start to take a look a little bit more at the National League side of things, because we start out with the American League side, but I do think that there are quite a few short favorites that are going to be presenting a little bit of value, and right now you're seeing the number on the Colorado Rockies go to the moon, and man, if you're looking at Padres versus Rockies, just jump in on this now before it gets a little bit too late. As right now, the San Diego Padres run line, it opened up at a minus 165. To lay a run and a half with them right now is in some places as high as a minus 190, and dare I say it's going to continue. This might actually be a spot where you look at like a minus 2.5 run line. Like, as bad as it is to say, like, I'm actually going to be in on the under in this spot. That's why I wrote up for the VSiN website, just because when you get to a minus 190 run line, even though it's a case where I don't necessarily disagree with the price right now, that's just getting to a little bit of a point of no return. Even for as bad as the Colorado Rockies are in that money line, it is currently a minus 270, minus 280 or so. Like, I'm typically a sucker for taking these ugly underdogs, but man, you just can't do it with the Colorado Rockies. I wish I could put it any other way. You just can't do it with the Colorado Rockies. 6-33 thus far this season. Like, this is a skid mark on the underpants of baseball. They're on pace for 25 wins this season. Like, they are on pace to win 16 less games than the Chicago White Sox did last season. Like, I'm trying to do the math in my head. Yep, they're on pace for 137 losses this season. Yes, and I did do the because that's the way that my mind operates. But, I mean, that's how bad it is right now with the Colorado Rockies. It's been the gift that keeps on giving them. Do like that under there, but that said, let's take a look at games with a little bit less of a harebrained money line situation, as we've got that with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Washington Nationals, and this is 953, 954 on the card with the Nationals. They're right around about minus 125, minus 130 favorites against St. Louis. Your total on this game is an 8.5, with it being Mackenzie Gore against Miles Mikolas, and Mikolas has actually performed a little bit better here in the last few games, but I just can never trust in Miles Mikolas because he just gives up way too much contact in general. general. And he's out giving up about 3 walks per 9 innings as well. Like, if you're going to be a pitcher like Miles Mikolas, you best not be walking guys. And Miles Mikolas right now, 4.8 strikeouts to 3.2 walks per 9 innings. I mean, with how much the ball's been in play against him, he's very lucky that he hasn't given up more of the deep ball. He's only allowed 1 home run in 7 starts as far as the season, but even with that, rocking a 4.76 ERA because he is just having the ball put in play against him so much in general. Now, he has given up 3 runs or fewer in each of his last 5 games, but I feel like that was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, and I feel like he was just a little bit of a beneficiary of just some of the places that he was playing, some of the balls that went in play in general as well. And for Mackenzie Gore, this guy has been a strikeout machine. Right now, he's got a 3.33 ERA, a 2-3 record. Does not indicate how well he's truly pitched. A 2.76 fielding independent. He's giving you 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. Absolutely love what he's been able to do. Now, here's the trepidation that you've got for the Washington Nationals. This bullpen, north of a 7 ERA, that is dead last in all of baseball, but it's not as if this is some sort of an amazing bullpen on the flip side for the St. Louis Cardinals. I do like Brian Helsley, the closer of this team, but they had to use him in the game yesterday, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue for a Cardinals team that out of these guys like JoJo Romero, Ryan Fernandez and company, they have not necessarily been able to get a lot of production. And for the Washington Nationals, they've had James Wood put good wood on the ball as he's been able to do a nice job of being able to give this team 10-plus home runs. You do need to get a little bit more out of Josh Bell, Dylan Cruz. These guys have been underwhelming, to say the least, as far as this season, but that pickup of Nathaniel Lowe has been paying off for them. Flip side for the St. Louis Cardinals, not necessarily a team with a whole bunch of home run hitters. Don't have a single guy on the roster that's giving you north of 5 home runs. A little bit more of a move the line sort of contact team as Brendan Donovan is hitting north of 300. Nolan Arenado just has not been able to give you too much of the deep ball, but he's still giving you about a 340 on base. Victor Scott has been able to come into his own. Mason Wynn has been off and on injured, but when he's been out there, he's been relatively solid as well. But I do think that for the Washington Nationals, they just get a good start here out of our guy in Mackenzie Gore. And on the flip side, again with Miles Mikolas, I just continue to have my trepidations and my question marks with him. Now, with regards to this total, I did set mine at 8.6 because, again, I just don't trust in Miles Mikolas. Again, it just feels like with some of these guys, the advanced numbers don't take into account that you've got a guy, Miles Mikolas, that just hangs the ball over the plate from time to time, and I think that that's going to be a big issue for him. So I do like this over, and I do like the run line of the Washington Nationals right here on Cash and Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I should say money line of the Washington Nationals. I was thinking run line of the San Diego Padres because, man, that Rockies team, just not good to say the least. This one is a little bit of a tighter line as well. So how about if we do take a look at the Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks and what has been a fascinating series thus far, as this is Tony Gonsolin going up against Zach Gallen. And when I was doing my write-ups here, the Arizona Diamondbacks were finding themselves more around about even money, and currently in a lot of places are a very slim favorite. I'm right now seeing as good as a -105 out there on the Arizona Diamondbacks, as bad as about a -115 for the Dodgers, are about as good as a shall we say -102 price, as bad as a -110, and the total is 9.5. And I just don't trust in Tony Gonsolin. For Gonsolin, first 2 starts, not great, not bad. He's been able to give you an ERA that's hovering right around 4, so you expect him to be able to continue to do a solid job of being able to hold down the fort, but I still go back to the last time we saw him in a full season, the 2023 campaign. During that season, he was giving up 1.7 home runs and 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and lest we forget, the Arizona Diamondbacks, if you date it back to the beginning of the 2024 season, they actually lead all of baseball in terms of runs per game. Like, you've got a few guys that you need them to pick it up with the average a little bit more, and Eugenio Suarez has not really been one of those guys that has been able to move the line for the team, but he's giving you a double-figure amount of homers this season. Could use a little bit more out of Lourdes Gurriel as well, but Corbin Carroll, I just still go back to it. Last season, I thought that he was banged up and injured because he was really just not himself in general, and I go back to that season in 2023. He had like a shoulder sublux when he dove into second base. It was like during the summertime, and I feel like that really hampered him. I feel like he's now fully over that, and he has been able to perform at his best thus far this season, but you've got guys like Geraldo and Perdomo and company that have been pretty solid, and I mean, with the Arizona Diamondbacks, they are banged up in their bullpen. Currently, they're without their main closer in A.J. Puck. Justin Martinez has been going through injuries as well, but it's also a Dodgers team that's been dealing with a lot of injuries himself, as you've got for the LA Dodgers right now, Blake Trine currently being out for them. I know that they've been without Bruce Sutter Gridewell all season long, so that's been a bit of an issue. So you're relying upon guys more like an Alex Vesia and company to be able to hold down the fort. Michael Kopech, another one of those guys that's out, and when it comes to the LA Dodgers, obviously Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, you know that they're going to perform. The Betts has been down a little bit this season. Freddie Freeman, when he's been out there, you see the show or slip situation a few weeks ago. He's been giving you north of 4 on base, hitting for plenty of power as well. So it makes it very intriguing in this ordeal. And that I just always love Zach Gallen at home. If you look at his career numbers, 3.10 home ERA, 3.61 ERA on the road. His home runs per 9 rate really does come down at home. But he's been a little bit more shaky thus far this season in Arizona. I do think that both of these guys are going to surrender some runs to, in my opinion, two of the top lineups in all of baseball. So here at 9.5, I do like the over. And I do like that money line of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'd be willing to go up to minus 112 there. So do shop around accordingly. And just like with shopping around for the best number with regards to baseball, you're able to do that with regards to your own bets over at ProfitX, because ProfitX, they are making sure that they're able to give you the best odds possible, because this is a peer-to-peer sports exchange. It's available in 40 plus states, and you're able to oftentimes get better odds by about 10 to 20% better than what you're able to find at a normal sports book, because you're not betting against the books, you're actually betting against normal fans. And you can even request your own odds when you download ProfitX right now with the promo code of VSiN. You're earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month, as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN. And how about if we take a look at this game as well, because I'm very intrigued by what we're going to be getting out there in Pittsburgh on Sunday. It's the Atlanta Braves going up against the Pirates, with Carmen Molodzinski going up against Chris Sale. And right now with the Atlanta Braves are right around about minus 190 to minus $2 favors, and the total's anywhere between 8 to 8.5. Mostly seeing 8.5 out there, and I'm going to be diving in on this total under, because with the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have been dead last in the league in terms of runs per game. Now, you did have an extra inning game yesterday, so that is something that you do want to be very much noting. But still, with the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's a bullpen that I don't think is going to be necessarily, it's a bullpen that has been a little bit hit or miss. You've been noticing David Bednar doing a little bit of a better job for this team recently after he was sent down to the minor leagues and was really embarrassed with that regard. And I did think that they made a few shrewd moves in the offseason. Someone like a Joey Wentz coming on over from the Tigers, who's able to give you multiple innings, I think is solid. And for the Atlanta Braves, neither here nor there in terms of that bullpen, but I am very much in on Chris Sale having some positivity, has now allowed a combined 5 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Felt like he was getting a little bit unlucky on balls in play towards the beginning part of the season. Fielding independence still a full point lower than his actual ERA, still giving you north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, not necessarily walking a lot of guys, fewer than 2.5 walks per 9 innings. And for the Pirates, guys not named Oneil Cruz are really having a tough time getting on base. You've gotten a little bit of something out of Andrew McCutchen, but he's very much long in the tooth as well. So I've got my question marks there with the Atlanta Braves. It's been a little bit of shaky offense. The guys at the bottom of the lineup, like Nick Allen, Eli White, I question whether or not they're going to continue to get on base. And right now, seeing about a plus 174. I would be willing to take a shot on the Pirates on the money line. Again, do have my questions with that Atlanta Braves, shall we say, lineup, but also going to be in on the under. And coming up next, how about if we talk about the fact that the schedule release in the NFL is coming out in the next few days, right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We've got ourselves a lot that is happening right now in sports in general. And one of the biggest things that we are going to be seeing happening in the next few days is the schedule release, because it is always covered wall to wall, and it certainly is grand. And especially if you're looking to travel to these games for the upcoming season, I think that it is always very important to be noting that. You want to know where you're going to be road tripping to. You're hoping and praying that you're able to get the trip to, like, the great state of Wisconsin, which is where I'm from, in September and October rather than in December, where it is absolutely freezing cold. But the big thing that I take a look at in terms of schedule release is that oftentimes you're going to see a lot of movement in terms of these season win totals. You're going to see a lot of people being like, oh no, Team X is going to be having 3 straight games on the road. Team Y is going to be having X, Y, and Z. And I do think that sometimes it gets a little bit overblown. I do think that the market reaction to it is almost a little bit too swift, especially with the fact that you've got a lot of places that right now you're able to bet on these season win totals. You're able to bet on a lot of these futures, and we already know who the opponents are going to be for these teams. Like, I think that it's very important to note that if you really like I just mentioned it a second ago with the Green Bay Packers, we already know who their home teams are going to be. We already know who the teams that they're going to be playing on the road is. We just don't necessarily know the shall we say, lineup, and we don't necessarily know the order of these teams and when they're going to be playing them. We also have a little bit of question mark when it comes to, like, the international series, what have you, and some of these specialty Christmas games. So you always want to be looking out for that. There's no question that there's a little bit of value on that front, but there's typically not so much value that it sways you by, like, a full win or something like that. Like, I still remember, I think that it was 2 years ago, the San Francisco 49ers win total went down by north of a full win that year just because of the schedule release. And I'm just like, really, if you like the San Francisco 49ers over like insert your number here, and because of the schedule release, you drop it by more than a full win, I think that you've gone a little bit too far, especially when you just factor in the fact that it's pretty predictable who's going to be playing in some of these primetime games. Like, for example, the Arizona Cardinals. Are we going to be seeing the Arizona Cardinals playing 5+ primetime games? Are they going to be pulling the Kansas City Chiefs sort of schedule from a season ago where they're playing on a Black Friday, where they're playing on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I insert day here, pretty much every day except for Tuesday, I think they played last season? No, you can expect the Arizona Cardinals to maybe get like 2, maybe 3 primetime games, and that's going to be about it. A team like the Green Bay Packers, they're going to be in on primetime. The Detroit Lions obviously are going to be quite a bit as well, and you can always bank on the Detroit Lions having a little bit more of a funky bunch schedule because you know that they're going to be playing on Thanksgiving, and when you play on that Thanksgiving Thursday, that throws things for a little bit more of a loop as well. But a lot of these teams are a little bit more predictable. Now, there are going to be a few teams that are going to be a bit interesting. How many primetime games we get for the Chicago Bears, that I think is going to be fascinating because it's year number 2 of Caleb Williams. You bring in a new hot rod coach and everything like that. That's something that you do want to be noting, and that's something that you want to take into account. And there's like 1 or 2 teams where maybe you're going to be feeling a little bit more, shall we say, tepid about. Like, the reason why I bring this up is the Miami Dolphins, because when you take a look at the Miami Dolphins, they obviously play out there in the AFC East, and you want a lot of their road conference games to be more towards the front half of the season because we know the struggles of Tua Tagovailoa, and I mean, just in general, like, you don't even need to take a look at like the Tua home and road splits. Just look at these teams from the state of Florida that they have to play in the northeast part of the country when the temperatures are 32 and below in November and December, and you'll see their win-loss differential be much, much greater. That's always something that you want to know with those southern teams that head up north in November/December, and there is something to that. But at the same time, if you have like a dome team, for example, like the Detroit Lions, for example, even though they're going to have quite a few primetime games, I do think that just looking at the schedule and trying to make too much out of it, it's a little bit of a fool's errand, in my opinion, especially when you can get down on these numbers right now. You can get on it before you get a little bit of movement, and it does work both ways. Sometimes you're able to get in on a little bit of a better number. Sometimes you're able to get in on a little bit of a worse number. That's just a little bit of the roll of the dice there, but I do think that it's very important to be taking a look at these numbers right now, and if absolutely nothing else, have a number in mind right now and be like, hey, I thought that the Green Bay Packers win total should have been 9.5. That's right now what we're seeing in a lot of different places. With the schedule release, if you see the Green Bay Packers, maybe they have 1 or 2 more primetime games than they were expecting. That 9.5 probably shouldn't be so stark that it goes down to an 8.5 unless if they really got just the short end of the stick where they are having to go like East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast for like a full month, which typically the NFL is not going to do them quite that dirty. And I mean, even with the toughest schedule in the league last year, the Kansas City Chiefs went over that win total very, very easily. Recognize that the Chiefs had a little bit of a blessed run during the regular season, had a few botched snaps, everything like that, but still, they were able to overcome that, and sometimes I do think that there's a little bit too much attention paid there. Something that you do want to be paying a lot of attention to, that would be the Preakness, because you're able to bet the Preakness stakes over at First Bet, and you get rewarded. Utilize that promo code of VSIN200, VSIN200. That earns you a 20% rebate on all of your wagers for the first 60 days, and that's for up to $200. That's win or lose, so you get paid back. Download First Bet over at the number 1 st.com/bet and utilize the promo code of VSIN200 to be able to get started today. That's the number 1 st.com/bet and then that promo code VSIN200 as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. So did want to just give you guys a little bit of a word to the wise. Don't feel like you can't bet these NFL season win totals, anything like that, until you see the schedule release. They're all up right now on most of these books, so you're able to get down on that. And something else that you're able to get down on as well is just a lot of these playoff series in general when it comes to the NBA and the NHL, because we saw what happened in the NBA tonight, and I mean, while I was on air, we had one of the more stunning, shall we say, results of the NHL playoffs, with the Golden Knights being able to get it done against the Edmonton Oilers. 4-3 was the final in that one. If you missed it, by the way, final second of the game, the Golden Knights are able to get a goal. It looked like it was not going to be a goal, but Upon further review, they were able to give Riley Smith credit for that goal, and he had a pair of goals in this one. Actually, he struck late in the first period, and then he struck in this one to be able to get it done by a count of 4-3. So now the Golden Knights, they have themselves a nice 2-1 series lead over the Edmonton Oilers. Have to fear a little bit of doomsday out there for the Edmonton Oilers. I felt like this was one that they very, very much needed. They were able to snatch home ice advantage in Las Vegas by being able to win that early game, and now it has swung right back to the Golden Knights. So I thought that was very important, and I think that this is going to be an amazing series. And just a lot of these series in general do feel like a little bit of toss-ups. Like, if you can tell me what's going to be happening in the Winnipeg Jets series, you let me know, because Connor Hellebuyck and how he's been playing recently has been very much of intrigue. That's going to be a minus 145 line right now, with the Dallas Stars being a favorite, and that's one where I feel like it's a relatively toss-up series as well, just because I think that all hinges upon the goaltending, and additionally as well, it hinges upon the fact that the Dallas Stars have been all sorts of banged up. We need to see who's all going to be healthy, who's all going to be not healthy, and these are the ones where I do feel like just being able to gauge these on a game-to-game sort of basis, that's where you want to be playing right now, because right now you've got the series price of the Dallas Stars being a minus 155, but if they don't necessarily get the full allotment of guys that they want back, and additionally as well, what I always think is so interesting with regards to injuries, and this is across all sports, this is football, this is college basketball, this is baseball. You just look at anything, it's not just whether or not player X, player Y is going to be out there on, in this case, the ice, going to be out there on the court, going to be out there on the field. How close to 100% are they going to be? That is always something that you want to be gauging, because you always get the questions on the old Twitter/X of, oh, is this player going to be playing or not? Doesn't do you a whole heck of a lot of good if a player is back out there on the field and they're pretty much walking around on one leg. So I always do think that that's very important to be noting. So that's going to be a fun one out there. And when it comes to Dallas, that's out there in the great state of Texas, and that transitions us to be taking a look at a little bit of baseball as well, as we do have ourselves all 30 teams in action on Sunday. And the Texas Rangers have been one of the most fascinating teams in all of baseball, and then they were able to put up a 10 spot on Saturday, which that was a surprise, because they have been a bottom 3 team in all of baseball in terms of run scoring, and they're going to look to duplicate that on Sunday against the Detroit Tigers, as right now it's Nathan Eovaldi going up against Reese Olson. Total is anywhere between 7 and 7.5, and right now with the Tigers, they're around minus 108 to, I'm seeing as high as minus 120 favorites. Most other places have this closer, about a minus 115, and I was willing to take a shot on the Detroit Tigers. They're minus 1. I set my money line at a minus 125. For Reese Olson, he's just been flat out dealing thus far this season, about a 3.04 ERA, but the fielding independent is even lower than that. Really, since the beginning of the 2024 season, has been tremendous at not allowing hard contact, giving up 0.6 home runs per 9 innings against the Rangers team that I believe that their offense is better than what we've seen to begin the season. Like, I don't think that when it's all said and done, they're going to be wrapping up the season 29th out of 30th in terms of run producing. Now, they do let go of Leody Taveras. He's now on the Seattle Mariners, and I just take a look at what you've got in general out of this team, as you've got the likes of Jock Peterson, Jake Berger, Marcus Semien, all hitting below the middle sign 200. Now, do I think that Jock Peterson is going to end up hitting for 300 with a whole bunch of bombs? No, but he's getting out of that funk where he was 0 of 42, so that's big for him. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is a bullpen that does a really good job of being able to lock things down. But on top of the Detroit Tigers and that bullpen that was so big, and them being able to make the postseason last year, the offense has now come alive, actually entered into the day on Saturday. Number 2 in the American League in terms of runs per game. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, both being able to give you 9 home runs this far this season. Having a guy like a Zach McKinstry being able to move line is very big as well. So I do actually think that the total is set a little bit too low. I think that they get to Nathan Eovaldi. I do think that the Rangers experience a little bit of positivity in terms of that lineup. So circumstance where I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. I did take a Tigers money line as well. And coming up next, haven't really looked at the interleague games that we've got for Sunday, including Sunday Night Baseball. We'll do that next right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. we've got ourselves a lot that is happening on this Sunday. Again, hopefully all of you have a tremendous Mother's Day on Sunday, and we're having ourselves a tremendous show. And the big reason why we're having such a tremendous show, everyone behind the scenes and all of their hard work. As I always say here at VSiN, they are the best team out there in the business, and it's my job to not be the weak link because they always do such a tremendous job. If you're listening on Sirius XM, if you're listening a little bit after the fact as well, because every single show here at the network, you're able to find that on our VSiN podcast feed over at the VSiN Bets feed, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, list goes on and on. Everyone here makes sure that everything is all up and running there, as we've got ourselves just Justin doing a great job in terms of producing this show. If you're watching on YouTube TV, if you're watching on vsin.com, just wherever you're getting the show, you've got Jerens along with Isaiah doing a great job on the graphics, and Chris, he is our main audio man. I was forgetting Chris's name there for a second, so we were filibustering there, but Chris does an absolutely amazing job there. Jerens and Isaiah, toughest job here on the network, being able to make me look halfway presentable in a video format, so do appreciate all these guys. Johnny, our associate producer, always does a great job setting me up for success. Everyone here at the network, they do an absolute A+ job, so big thanks to everyone behind the scenes. They are the best, and now it's my job to be able to get you guys some winning bets as well, because we do have ourselves a tremendous day that is going to be going down on Sunday in baseball, and this one I think is going to be one of the more interesting games, as we do have Sunday night baseball between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cleveland Guardians, with this being a total of 7.5, shaded up a little bit to the over. Phillies with Zach Wheeler, about a -160, -170 or so favorite. You're able to get in the mid +140s up to a +150 on Cleveland, and if you're looking to lay a run off with the Philadelphia Phillies, was seeing this a little bit earlier, up closer to a +108. Right now we're seeing this go down to about a +105 or so, but this is a circumstance where if you're able to get anything above a +105, if we can get a little bit of movement, we'll be willing to take the Phillies on the run line, laying a run off, but I really do like the over here. For Zach Wheeler, he is now out of his, I like to call it doomsday month for him, because I've just noticed for Zach Wheeler throughout his career, it always takes him about a month to be able to get fully acclimated into the season, because for Zach Wheeler, his ERA throughout his career in the months of March/April, they combine those 2 months because typically you'll get that one funky start in March, but he always has his lowest career ERA in that month, and then he's able to pick it up from there. And then on the flip side, you've got a guy in Luis Ortiz that I just haven't been too impressed with this year. His strikeout numbers are up, but he's giving out north of 4 walks per 9 innings, and I'm just a believer in this Philadelphia Phillies lineup being able to get their rear ends in gear a little bit more, as well as for the Phillies. They just haven't been able to hit the deep ball this year the way that they have in the past, and it's not necessarily a case where you've got a lot of guys that are just not moving the line. They're not getting on base. Sans Alec Bohm. Bohm has been having a little bit of a rough season, but I mean, you've got someone like Trey Turner, for example. He's been stuck on a home run or two all season long, but he's still giving you 380 on base. Bryson Stott is moving the line. Nick Castellanos has been able to do a nice job finding a way on base as well. They're just not hitting the same amount of homers that they have in past years. Heck, Kumando Sosa at the bottom of the lineup, he's hitting a 333 for this team. So you've had a lot of these guys be able to produce. Bryce Harper has been a little bit rough for the team, but he was able to get his 7th home run of the season on Saturday, so you like to see that, and Kyle Schwarber has obviously been amazing. And then for Cleveland, it's just a top-heavy team in general. Like, I mean, your front three for this team, Steven Kwan, Gabriel Urias, Jose Ramirez, they're moving line, they're giving you some relatively good power, but when you get down to the bottom of this lineup, when you get into likes of a, shall we say, John Kenzie Noel, Austin Edge, it's just whoever's playing a catcher, because Bo Naylor has been a little bit rough as well. Brian Rocchio, guys like this, they just don't find a way to be able to get on base for you, so that's a bit of an issue. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this is a bullpen that's just not the same as it was a season ago. We've seen the fall off of Emmanuel Clase, but it's not just Emmanuel Clase that's been a little bit less than savory for this team. You've got the big three, in my opinion, of this team. You've got Hunter Gaddis, Tim Aaron, along with Cade Smith, but then after that, a lot of these guys, like we saw Joey Cantillo absolutely yak away that game on Saturday. You've had a few of these other guys who have been just very hit or miss in general. Jacob Junis has not necessarily been the world's greatest. They brought in Paul Sewell, which I've never been big on Paul Sewell personally. Going all the way back to his Seattle and Arizona days, I wasn't sure why they brought him in. Now you do have like Eric Zabrowski currently on the 60-day injured list, which has been hurting this team, but yeah, they've been trying to mix and match with some of those bullpen pieces. Has not been great, especially when you got a rotation that currently has Ben Lively with the lowest ERA among those main starters, so that's not necessarily a place where you want to be. But that said, with the Philadelphia Phillies, if you can get a little bit of plus money on that run line, we'll be looking there. And then with regards to total, I do think that they'd find a way to be able to get to Luis Ortiz, and additionally this Phillies bullpen also in the bottom 10 in terms of ERA, so going to be looking at the over there. And what else we're looking at is the betting splits here on VSiN. VSiN because we're able to give you betting splits on two major books. So you got DraftKings, which obviously that's taken a lot of public action and it's getting you the voice of the public. And then Circa is known for taking big bets from professional bettors while you get a more broader market perspective from DraftKings. So you're able to see the real action, not just the public money and the kind of wagers that they certainly do move the lines. You're able to see the percentage of bets versus the percentage of handle on every single game across every major sport. That helps you bet smarter and make more informed bets. Get VSiN's exclusive betting splits right now for as low as $9.99 for your first month, and that is over at vsin.com/subscribe. As it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And how about if we take a look at the early game that we're going to be getting on Mother's Day? If you're looking for some early sweats, if you're going out to brunch or something like that, which I don't know if I'm going to be involved in a brunch or not, but we shall see. That's what you always get with regards to relationships, so we shall see what happens on that front. But you know what? We've got ourselves a fun one that you're going to be able to sweat out while you're drinking your mimosa. So how about if we go 951, 952 on the board? And very fitting that I mentioned mimosas, and you've got a team that wears orange, and the New York Mets going up against the Chicago Cubs. Matthew Boyd is going to be on the bump for the Cubs, and Griffin Canning goes for the Mets. And Mets are right now about a -120, -125 favorite. Total on this game is 8.5 shaded down to the under, and I'm just right now buying in on this Mets pitching staff, and with regards to this Mets, just more or less the coaching that you're getting for all these pitchers right now. Like, they have been able to turn so many of these guys into reclamation projects. It's not even funny. Like, the way that Clay Holmes went from, I'm not going to call him a failure in the New York Yankees bullpen, but he was a much maligned guy in the Yankees bullpen. Like, ask any sort of Yankees fans, they weren't necessarily the biggest stands of Clay Holmes at the end of 2024, and yet here he is being able to give you good starts. Griffin Canning was left for dead out there in Los Angeles because Los Angeles, they just have no idea how to coach pitching. Like, if you want to look at the just issues that the LA Angels are having in general, it all comes down to coaching and their player evaluators. Like, I think that they're about as clueless as someone that's trying to go on a sunbathing vacation out there in Antarctica. That's the way that they are operating right now. That's not what you want, to say the least, but Griffin Canning has been able to find it here in New York. He's giving you a sub-3.25 ERA. He's been able to get his swing and miss stuff back. Last year was posting up fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings with the Angels, back up to 9 strikeouts per 9 innings this season. And for the Mets, they've been mixing and matching with a lot of really good long relievers as well, like some Oscar Brazoba and Max Kronick, throwing their Jose Buto. These guys giving you a sub-3.4 ERA have been rock solid for them, even with the likes of Edwin Diaz and company. The shorter guys having a little bit of shakiness, they still have a really good bullpen. And for the Chicago Cubs, this is a fearsome lineup that is currently number one in all of baseball in terms of runs per game. I do have to think that there's a little bit of regression here. Like, Pete Crow Armstrong right now has 9 home runs, and he's looking like a man possessed. It has been insane what we've seen out of him thus far this season. Pretty much everyone not named Dansby Swanson has been pretty solid at moving the line, and Swanson is now picking it up a little bit more as well. Like a guy like a Michael Busch has been pretty solid for the team. Seiya Suzuki has been able to give you 9+ bombs thus far this season as well. I think that there's going to be a little bit of a fall off there. Additionally, this is an early day game out there in New York where it's a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark out there at Citi Field. And for Matthew Boyd, throughout his career has always had some walks issues. He's very similar to Griffin Canning with regards to more of his ERA sort of stats, so right around about a 2.75 ERA. Fielding independent is about a point higher, as he has been giving out 3 walks per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff is good, but not great, about 8.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. But I do think that this is a little bit of a game of the bullpens, as for the Cubs, they're hovering right around about 20th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had a lot of guys that were so good in the bullpen towards back half of the season last year, like Porter Hodge and company, who he did have to throw it on Saturday, just not necessarily look like themselves this season. Ryan Brazier has been dealing with injuries. He's been on the injured list. Julian Merriweather over the last few years has been rough, having a little bit of a better 2025, but I still have my question marks as to how long lasting that's going to be as well. So I do think that with the Mets, they're starting to present a little bit of value. Wouldn't want to go much past like a -130. I set my money line price at a -133, but do like the Mets on the money line, especially with the Mets now being able to get Juan Soto going yard as well. He's been able to supply 4 home runs over the last 10 days. That's been big for them. They still have a few guys that have been a bit shaky this year. Brandon Nimmo is doing a good job of being able to hit for power, but not necessarily for average. Mark Vientos has been a little bit rough, to say the least, and now they're finally getting Francisco Alvarez back after he began the season on the injured list. So with regards to total, did set mine just below an 8.5. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that under, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that money line here of the New York Mets as well. So that's going to be a big one that's going to be coming up. And right now, with regards to that New York Yankees versus Athletics game, that's pretty much off the board. We don't know who the New York Yankees are going to be starting starting. I was seeing a little bit before Clark Schmidt, but I think that there's a little bit of concern as to whether or not he's going to be making the start. So if we get anything by the end of the night, I will let you know on that game. But as of right now, we're a little bit TBD on that front. But what we do know is that coming up next, we do have to talk some hockey, as we've got ourselves Chris Chapman aboard. He does a great job covering the Golden Knights. We saw a very stunning game number 3, and we'll break it down with him next right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.